EGM Network.
Good afternoon. This is podcast number 10. America is under a dark cloud, and this is Bill Crafton for the 10th time. That's right, it's podcast number 10. 10th time we've been here. And we're here representing Sir Pellin LLC. It's a third-party company that sells third-party tax certificates to Florida. We buy them and take all the risk, and if we sell them to you, you take all the risk once you own them. So that's the way it goes. I'm very lucky to be here with the folks from Evergreen Media. For those guys that are on the radio, Evergreen Media does a super job. So if you're any kind of business, you want to get a message out there and you want to do it electronically, definitely come in and talk to these guys. They're absolutely fabulous. And I beat them up every week. Jesse will tell you that too, right?
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, no.
I do. And I never leave home without my American Express card. And I'm not doing a podcast about Jesse because it never would get done. So this is a Wake Up America podcast. And back in 1967, this is the 10th podcast. Who were number 10 for the Boston Red Sox, Jesse?
Oh, wow. Number 10 for the Red Sox in 67? Yeah. I don't know.
Bob Tillman.
Bob Tillman.
What position did he play?
It sounds like a catcher.
He is a catcher.
Hey, I got it. All right.
Good job, Jesse. Good job. Okay, we try to come up with truth. We search it. We listen to what the politicians have to say, and then we research it and look for a contrary viewpoints on stuff. And if I consider it legitimate, we put it on the air and let you decide. Okay. So I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an American. And as American, I think the American political system deserves to treat us better. And we have something here. Last time we had billionaires that we were working with to show you.
All right. Well, do you want me to show the climate video? Where are we going with this, Bill?
Well, we had the billionaires.
The billionaires.
Right, which is a lady talking in Congress.
Okay.
45 to end.
Well, okay. Okay, here we go. I think this is what you're calling for here.
Okay, so
let me
12.4% for someone under 184.5. A millionaire would be about 2.2. What if you're a billionaire like Trump or Musk? Your Social Security tax would be effectively, on my understanding,
very, very much smaller.
0.0002.
Yes.
That just doesn't make sense to me. And when the richest people in the country have the smallest effective tax rate, that does not seem to me like a very fair system, especially when we are now 6 years away from retired workers facing this 24% cut in their Social Security benefits.
To my friends out there on the podcast land, read that. Jesse, what does that say?
Yeah. Working Americans pay taxes. Billionaires don't pay taxes. And Americans deserve better.
That's right. And you know what that means? That means the billionaires are running the political system because they skate on everything. We pay our taxes all the time, and they skip it. So anyway, we're going to move on to the global warming one, Jesse. You jumped ahead of me, but you can catch right up again.
I did. All right. Yeah. So this video, basically, it visualizes how the Earth has been heating up since 1880 until present day. So you can see it started off very blue, minus 3 degrees Fahrenheit below average, and then it goes to average, and then around the 60s it gets warmer, 70s very warm, 2-3 degrees Fahrenheit above the average. Now we're in the 90s, and it's very red, and of course today, I mean, the whole globe is red, over average, overheating. So
what that means, folks, is our president doesn't want to do anything with clean energy.
Yeah.
He wants to burn coal, burn natural gas, burn oil. And those are all toxins that will make the Earth warmer. And basically, you live in Florida and things melt around. Guess where all the water is going to come up? Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to come up on your beach and it's come up on the roads. And we see that right now. We can't drain water out of Florida anymore. It's getting really, really bad. Anyway, we're going to move on to how dictator would destroy democracy. Okay.
So, by the way, when he talks about the 2020 election being stolen from him, that's not just about 2020. That's about looking forward, too. He wants to set the predicate for the idea that elections are stolen, that he and the federal government and I guess the Republican Party have to step in. I can easily imagine them seizing the ballots in some of these districts that are heavily Democratic. That's not even counting the voter suppression that they will engage in order to prevent non-white people from feeling like it's safe to vote. And if you put all that together, then you have the final end to American democracy. I think that's what we're staring at right now.
Do you think what's happening in Minnesota with ICE is in part a way to scare people away from voting?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's been a big mistake, and I somewhat fault the media for basically treating this like it's and the Democratic Party, too, for that matter, treating this like it's an immigration and deportation and maybe even a crime issue, when it's clear and has been clear that the purpose of ICE is to create protests and riots of sufficient size to justify Trump, in his own mind, invoking the Insurrection Act and bringing in the regular military. It's clear that he wants to do that. And so Minnesota, in my view, has been a test run for the seizure of power, using these forces that he has brought under his control and created. This is not about immigration primarily. It's about white supremacy. It's about white Christian supremacy, but it's also about using the full force of the federal government effectively to nullify the voters' choices.
That was Robert Kagan, and he's with the Brookings Institute, and he's been a reporter for the Atlantic and a reporter for the Washington Post, basically, and be a former Republican. My comments I would like to make. We've been hearing for 5 years, elections are stolen, elections stolen. That's propaganda. That's all brainwashing. So they're setting you up for, if they don't win the election, it's going to be stolen. I can tell you what the Republicans are going to come out and jump up and down and say. And look for voter suppression using the brown shirts. Those are the ICE people, right? They're going to run around. They may end up, just surrounding voting centers in Democratic polling sections so that, people won't be afraid to come out and vote. So I'd call that voting suppression. But I'd like to hear what Steve Bannon has to say about ICE, Jesse, if you got that.
Yeah.
President Trump's former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon voiced his support for President Trump's push to nationalize elections. He also called on President Trump to deploy ICE to polling sites.
You're damn right. We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country again. And you can whine and cry and throw your toys out of the pram all you want, but we will never again allow an election to be stolen.
Remember, election was stolen. If I repeat a lie thousands of times, so all of a sudden it's perceived to be the truth. It's the cornerstone of propaganda, frequently attributed to a Nazi administrator of propaganda, Joseph Goebbels. It describes a technique where outrageous falsehoods, if repeated constantly, become accepted as the truth. This big lie has existed for 6 years in our country. And I'd like to hear what Carolyn Levitt had to say what Steve Bannon said.
CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro joins us live. Aaron, what are we hearing from the White House today about those midterm elections?
Liz, I'll start with Bannon's comments. In her press briefing earlier this afternoon, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded to them by saying she has not heard President Trump talk about this idea of having ICE agents at polling centers this November. But she was then asked if she and the White House would rule it out. Here's what she said.
I can't guarantee that an ICE agent won't be around a polling location in November. I mean, that's frankly a very silly hypothetical question. But what I can tell you is I haven't heard the president discuss any formal plans to put ICE outside of polling locations.
Well, she's probably very honest with that answer. No formal plans, but maybe they're doing informal plans, And what she's saying is absolutely true. You can't question that. No formal plans. But I think they might be doing some informal plans if you listen to Steve Bannon earlier. And what does Steve Bannon think about a third term for Donald Trump there, Jess?
On the one hand, you've said the Constitution is fit for purpose. Secondly, you've said that President Trump needs another term, even though the 22nd Amendment makes pretty clear that he cannot have another term.
Why does it make that clear?
Because he's in his second term already.
At some point in time, we will make sure we go through, Zanny, and define all those terms.
But you will be undermining the spirit of that amendment, even if you find some way around it.
If the American people, with the mechanisms we have, put Trump back in office, are the American people tearing up the Constitution? Would that be tearing up?
Well,
would the American people be going against the spirit of the Constitution, ma'am?
I think yes, actually, because I think what you will end up with is a populist justification for a quasi-dictatorship.
That's not true at all.
Well, she hit the nail on the head. Quasi-dictatorship. I think it's on its way, folks. And Steve Bannon, he doesn't seem to want to follow the Constitution. The 22nd Amendment. At one point in time, he was subpoenaed to come in to talk to Congress about what he did prior to the attack in January of 21. But what happened, I guess, was he didn't want to go. He spent 3 months in jail, okay? And he's back out, and he hasn't changed a whole lot. He's a real smart guy. So you got to be careful about him because he knows what he's doing. In coming up with Mr. Kagan, I think he's going to talk about how Trump might want to control the world.
A few of the other actions Trump has taken that have led you to call him a dictator.
First of all, just he personally, I think he really is a textbook definition of a megalomaniac. There is never enough power for him. He wants to have power over everybody, including the world, by the way, not just the United States. So there's the clear sense that you get from him that the Constitution means nothing to him, that elections mean nothing to him, and that the only thing that he seeks is his own power and wealth. But I think the power is more important. So there's the personality of Trump.
Yeah, Trump, when you look at it, he's in Iran. He invaded and captured the guy in Venezuela. For some reason, they don't like Cuba. They want to beat them up. You know, they try to change the Brazilian election. They don't really support Ukraine, and they're very much pro-Hungarian, which is we're going to come up in a second. And Greenland, basically, they want to take over Greenland, and then they threat to pull out on NATO, which is something that maybe kept peace in Europe for a whole bunch of years. But before we go to that, maybe Jesse might want to take a little quick break here for us.
Sure, yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break. This is Wake Up America with Bill Crafton, and we'll be right back.
They're coming! The Blue Angels will roar over the skies of Vero at the Vero Beach Air Show, presented by Piper Aircraft, Inc. See, hear, and feel the power of the Blue Angels, the MiG-17, and the McCart Jet Motorsports Home Wrecker Jet Truck, Saturday and Sunday. Experience the dazzling fireworks extravaganza on Friday night, the Vero Beach Air Show, May 15th, 16th, and 17th, presented by Piper Aircraft, Inc. Get tickets online at VeroAirShow.com.
Welcome to 9 to 5, the musical, where the coffee's strong and the women are stronger. And their boss, Mr. Hart, well, he's a little high-strung, shall we say? Based on the smash hit movie 9 to 5, the musical is a hilarious story of female friendship and delightful revenge. Come meet the whole gang. 9 to 5 starts April 16th at the beautiful Riverside Theater in Vero Beach. Get your best tickets now at the box office or riversidetheater.com.
Jesse,
yes,
I got 2 tickets for my wife and myself to go there because I saw this on the advertisement.
Oh, good. Going to 9 to 5 at Riverside. All right.
Hey, Victor Orban and J.D. Vance, they got together this past week, and we have a little report on that.
Yes, there was this attack on Brussels and on Brussels' attempt to censor what information the Hungarians were getting, but also more broadly a takedown of election interference and of Brussels somehow telling Hungarians who they should vote for, and the irony of having the Vice President of the United States standing in Budapest next to the Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who is about to go to the polls in just 5 days, a country that is about to go to the polls, and coming there and starting your speech by saying that he is here to help as much as he can Viktor Orban, because he feels that his president, Donald Trump, and Viktor Orban are 2 peas in the same pod.
this is what I can't figure out. This guy's in your opinion, he's a rogue actor. He causes nothing but trouble. He opposes sanctioning Russia. Okay, while advocating for Ukraine to negotiate a ceasefire. Well, if you negotiate a ceasefire with Russia, it's a surrender. Give Russia what they want, and we'll have a ceasefire, I guess. By the Ukraine has been fighting this war for 4 years, and Viktor Orban, he's also maintaining close ties with China. Now, what I don't understand is how the vice president can be there. I'm kind of surprised that the vice president would be there supporting somebody that supports Russia and supports China based on the president's position, but that's just my opinion. So moving on, we're going to take a look at Mr. Kagan again, characterizing what a dictator is personality-wise.
But then, of course, there's all the things that he did in his first year, which we've sort of gotten used to.
First year, second term.
Second term, first year, second term, 2025, which is the remarkable, and I got to say, it will go down in history as really a remarkable destruction of the government. That his turning the Justice Department into his personal legal weapon, his turning the CIA into his personal organization, his using the FBI to go after enemies and solidify his position in power. These are all textbook actions of a dictator. He doesn't want to allow any pluralism in this country. He doesn't want to allow any dissent. You know, the way they talk about protesters as domestic terrorists, that's Stalin territory that you're in. So, I mean, it's almost there are too many things to list, it seems to me, that make him really not a would-be dictator, but really a dictator at this point.
Hey, remember Alex Preddy and Renee Good, Jesse?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, they're victims of a dictator, okay? Yeah. Because nothing's happened. They've been shot and killed. No investigations going on. You know, they may have one on the books, but they're not. Nothing's coming out about it, right?
Yeah.
And actually, the tragedy that the vice president, and I don't want to pick on him, but J.D. Vance came out within an hour of one of those folks getting shot, saying that they're domestic terrorists. And he had no idea. They're just spreading propaganda. Spread the lies. Tell it enough times, and people will believe it. And I can't believe a president of the United States can act like this in America, okay, and not pursue justice where it needs to be pursued. Speaking of that, good guys here, let's talk about Mark Milley. He swore an oath to the Constitution.
General Milley did tell us he was so disillusioned with the former president's actions, he nearly resigned. Instead, according to former Defense Secretary Mark Esper, he and the general made a pact to protect the military from becoming politicized or misused.
Protect the military from politics. Trump doesn't necessarily do that way. He basically has declared 2020, remember the pillow guy and General Michael Flynn? They're in there, working with Trump, trying to extend his first term as president. And by the way, a funny thing happened. The Department of Justice, I guess Flynn had decided to sue because he was arrested illegally or whatever. And then the next thing I know, he's working with the FBI. And the next thing I know after that, he's got a new lawyer and he's not working with the FBI. And he sues the Department of Justice. And before the Attorney General left, she awarded him $1.25 million. Now, you can call that a payoff if you want. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty bad, when you think about this is supposed to be democracy in America, justice. Mark Espy, Department of Defense, he has something to say too, Jess, I think.
During the 18 months that Mark Esper served as Secretary of Defense, he clashed at times with former President Trump over proposals to use the military in ways Esper thought were inappropriate. Trump fired Esper in November 2020, a few days after Trump lost re-election.
Basically, purging, so now we have Pete Hegseth. So what does he do? He purges all the generals that basically may not agree with the president, and now we have a military that will basically almost do anything. They might even commit war crimes if they're directed by the president. So I think that's where we are today. But we have a Senator, Alessa Slocum. She might have something to say about that, too.
At my count, that is 17 GOFOs, general officers, who have been removed from their positions or retired early in 9 months. I'm a former CIA officer, so we used to look at other foreign militaries and make assessments on them. If I saw 17 general officers removed from their positions in a foreign military, we would call that a purge. That's the technical definition when a new leader comes in and just cleans house. The places where we've looked at these kinds of things are places like China, right, where they remove large numbers of officers at one time. I used to work on Iraq. They would do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what they do in those dictator-type ship companies. If they don't like the military, they get rid of them. And quite frankly, a dictator cannot exist unless he gets support of the military, because there's always a military coup that can be kicked in. So that's like the first rule in the rule book of how to become a dictator, I guess. I'd like to show you a list of Matt Naradis is next, and she had something to say about this too.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has fired Army Chief of Staff General Randy George, 2 other top generals, the latest of more than a dozen generals and admirals removed over the last year. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz has the story. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. Pete Hegseth has fired many senior officers since becoming secretary, but these firings, including the Chief of Staff of the Army, come in the middle of a war.
Okay, that's a fact. Okay, do we have some? It's a list of generals that might have been fired.
Yeah, here's the entire list here.
Yeah. Okay. You obviously, if you're on the radio, you'd have to see it, but we got a list of 14 generals, a lot of them with multiple stars. Remember, these are career people, West Point, Navy, Air Force, right? They spent their entire lives trying to do the right thing for America, and they just get, boom, go away. We don't want you anymore. So, which is really sad, to see all that happen. And Peter Hegseth, he seems like he's replacing these generals with people to be loyal to Trump. The group that has been removed may not want to commit war crimes, So if they can't get on board with the program, they don't want them around. In the 25th Amendment, people are talking about that now, but 25th Amendment is useless in this government. It just doesn't work. It's crazy, right? And remember, a dictator will only survive as long as it's supported by the military. And speaking about the military, they wanted to kick up in 40% in rates, I guess. Taxes pay for additional military stuff, Jesse.
And as the war overseas continues to escalate, the president is asking for record spending for the military, sending a proposed budget for 2027 to Congress today, asking for $1.5 trillion in defense spending. It's about 40% more than the Pentagon got this year. He has cited a need to restock munitions and other supplies amid the war with Iran, but that boost would come at the cost of domestic spending. The president asking for $73 billion to be cut from agencies that manage climate, housing, and education programs. At a private lunch, he also suggested cutting Medicare and Medicaid to meet his proposed budget.
My only comment, we need to increase Medicaid funding by 40% to make it work for all Americans. And now we want to maybe have something, how the president might have said how I'd like to pay for this increase in government spending on military.
Here he is, making clear what are not on his list of priorities.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. It's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal.
Yeah, well, he says you can do it on a state basis, but I don't know how you're going to do it because the federal government collects all the money. If you're not sure, I don't pay a whole lot of taxes to the state of Florida, so I'm not sure how they pick it all up. But I'm sure he's got a magic plan someplace. He'll probably announce it in a couple of weeks. Well, anyway, so we basically out of time here?
No, we can keep going a little bit more.
Okay, let's move on to Brendan Carr then.
Yeah.
President Trump is unleashing American drone dominance. And at the FCC, we're doing our part. This week, we're launching a new proceeding to support American innovators that are working on drone and counter-drone technologies. Just today, I had the chance to spend time with Anduril's leadership here in West Texas and saw live demonstrations of their drone and counter-drone technologies. America's innovators are leading the way in this next-gen technology. It's going to be critical for our economic and national security, and the FCC is going to continue to do our part to support U.S.-made drone and counter-drone technologies.
Yeah, the Trump, and he decided not to buy any drones from Canada, banned it, so nobody can buy any drones from China, okay? If we move on, I think the Trump family might be making a little profit on that move.
Now to fresh questions for the Trump family. Of the president's son, they're backing a new drone company looking to do business with the Pentagon, opening up questions about conflicts of interest. Jay O'Brien has more. Good morning, Jay.
Michael, good morning to you. This is a major business move and another in a series of examples of the president's family seeming to intersect with his administration, in this case, the Pentagon, as that war with Iran rages on. Just yesterday, drone maker Powerus announcing it will merge with a golf course holding company backed by Trump's sons, Eric and Don Jr., and with plans to create a newly publicly traded company. The new company is calling the Trumps, quote, notable investors, saying it aims to support American drone industry dominance. The company is set to compete for lucrative military contracts, trying to fill a void in the market that was created by President Trump's own administration, which in December banned all new foreign-made drones, citing, quote, national security concerns. Chinese drone manufacturers have been dominant here in the U.S. And an investment firm with Donald Trump Jr.'s ties he joined the firm shortly after his father was reelected. It's taken a significant stake in another defense contractor, Anduril Industries, a major supplier of AI-powered defense technology and other weapons to the Pentagon. The Trumps have previously denied any involvement of their father in their family business, and they have said, according to the White House, that the president has his funds in a conflict, or in a trust, not a hands-off blind trust, but one managed by his family. A White House spokesperson said the president, quote, only acts in the best interest of the American public, guys.
Jay, still so many questions about potential conflicts of interest here. Thank you.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you something, Jesse. You know, if you can believe the Trumps, I got a bridge I can sell you in New York. Okay, I'll give you a really good deal on it. You know, I mean, this is bizarre. They're ripping off Americans. You know, people are dying. They're putting people in harm's way, and they're trying to make money off the drones. You know, it's unbelievable.
It's a real shame.
Yeah. Hey, just a heads up: the 17th Avenue Bridge is going to be closed all next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You might see me with my sign. What's that other bridge's name, Jesse? Going over? Some bridge, whatever. You know, the only bridge you can cross onto the other.
Yeah, the Merrill Harbor Bridge.
There you go. Jesse, where am I? Hey. Okay, and I'll be handing out some cards. Okay, and I want you to tune into this podcast, folks, and we're trying to give you the straight scoop. So thank you very much. And Jesse, you're unbelievable.
Oh, thank you, Bill. All right. Talk to you later.